The Middle East is currently standing on the edge of a blade, and the consequences of the next few days will echo for decades. Over the weekend, the geopolitical landscape fundamentally shifted when American service members lost their lives in a direct escalation of hostilities. This is no longer a shadow war fought through proxies, back channels, and plausible deniability. The veil has been torn down, and the United States is now engaged in a direct, kinetic confrontation that threatens to engulf the entire region. When President Donald Trump declared that Iran would pay for the loss of American lives, it was not merely political posturing. It was the initiation of a massive military response. Over the last 48 hours, we have witnessed consecutive nights of devastating American airstrikes. These are not symbolic warnings. The U.S. military is systematically dismantling Iranian military infrastructure, targeting command and control centers, weapon depots, and strategic positions. The scale of this retaliation is designed to establish absolute deterrence, a clear message from Washington that the cost of spilling American blood is catastrophic destruction. But as the smoke clears from these initial strikes, the world is holding its collective breath, waiting to see if this is the end of the retaliation or the beginning of a much larger, uncontrollable war. To understand the gravity of this moment, we have to look past the immediate explosions and analyze the broader chessboard. Trump's foreign policy has historically relied on the concept of maximum pressure, utilizing crippling economic sanctions combined with unpredictable military force. We saw this in his first term with the elimination of Qasem Soleimani. The doctrine is based on the idea that overwhelming, disproportionate response is the only language that adversaries respect. However, the current situation is infinitely more complex and dangerous. Iran has spent the last several years fortifying its alliances, heavily enriching uranium, and embedding its military assets deep underground. This brings us to the macroeconomic nightmare scenario. The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway bordering Iran, is the most critical oil choke point on the planet. Roughly 20% of the world's total global oil supply passes through this strait every single day. If Tehran, feeling backed into a corner by American airstrikes, decides to retaliate by attempting to close the strait or targeting commercial tankers, the global economy will face an immediate shock. We would see energy prices skyrocket overnight. For the American consumer, this means painful spikes at the gas pump, surging inflation, and a severe disruption to global supply chains right in the middle of a delicate economic recovery. Furthermore, this escalation is not happening in a vacuum. The global balance of power is shifting, and nations like China and Russia are watching Washington's every move with intense calculation. Beijing relies heavily on Middle Eastern oil to fuel its manufacturing engine, but it also sees a strategic advantage if the United States becomes bogged down in another prolonged Middle Eastern conflict. A distracted America, pouring trillions of dollars in military resources into the Persian Gulf, is an America that cannot focus on the Indo-Pacific or the South China Sea. The Trump administration is fully aware of this trap. They are trying to thread an incredibly dangerous needle, punishing Iran severely enough to restore deterrence, without getting dragged into a 20-year quagmire that drains American power globally. My analysis of the situation is this: the policy of containment has completely failed. You cannot contain an adversary that actively funds, arms, and directs a ring of fire across multiple borders. The deaths of American soldiers force Trump's hand. No commander-in-chief can allow casualties to go unanswered without completely shattering American credibility on the world stage. However, the risk of miscalculation right now is terrifyingly high. When you exchange direct fire, the illusion of control disappears. A rogue missile, an unexpected casualty, or a preemptive strike on critical infrastructure can trigger a domino effect that diplomats cannot stop. Trump is walking a geopolitical tightrope over a volcano. The domestic pressure is immense. Hawks in Washington are calling for regime change and strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, arguing that this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to neutralize the threat permanently. But an all-out war with a nation of nearly 90 million people, possessing advanced ballistic missiles and deep proxy networks, would make previous Middle Eastern conflicts look like minor skirmishes. The strategy we are seeing unfold is high-stakes brinkmanship. The administration is betting that Iran's leadership cares more about its own survival than it does about escalating a suicidal war with the world's most powerful military. The airstrikes are calibrated to cause maximum pain to the military apparatus while leaving the regime a narrow off-ramp to back down. But wars take on a life of their own, as American jets continue to launch sorties and air raid sirens echo across the Middle East. The global economy braces for impact. The coming weeks will define Trump's legacy and dictate the trajectory of global security. We are no longer talking about the threat of war. The opening salvos have already been fired, and the world is about to find out exactly what the cost of this escalation will be. Keep your eyes on the energy markets. watch the movements in the South China Sea, and understand that the geopolitical tectonic plates are shifting right beneath our feet.